Well, President Trump is also expected to sign executive orders calling for a temporary ban on most refugees and a suspension of visas for citizens from 7 Middle Eastern and African, predominantly Muslim countries, reported to include Syria, Iraq, Iran, Libya, Somalia, Sudan and Yemen. The United States admitted nearly 37,000 refugees from these 7 countries last year. That's 43% of the total number of refugees taken in by America. In addition, more than 17,000 people applied to immigrate to the US from those 7 countries in 2015. People can also enter the US on non-immigration visas, of course. To give you an example, 35,000 Iranians visited America in 2015, making up nearly half of those visiting from those 7 countries. But to put it all into context, that's less than 1% of the more than 10 million visitors to the United States. Well, let's discuss this further. Joining us from Washington is Chen from the American Immigration Lawyers Association. He's been closely following the Trump administration's plans on immigration. Thank you so much for joining us here, Greg, on the program. This comes as no surprise, like the wall that he plans to build along the border with Mexico. He did actually reiterate many of these things that he's now saying about immigration and putting a ban on people coming into the United States.
Yes, that's right. This was not expected, and it's a pleasure to be here with you today. With respect to the ban that is expected on the refugees, it is anticipated that that would be a suspension for about 120 days of refugees coming from all countries. And what that will do effectively is to shut down the U.S. refugee program worldwide for people coming from countries all over the world. These are refugees fleeing persecution.
From a legal standpoint, is this within his legal rights?
The president does have broad authority with respect to how the refugee program is run. There is an interesting exception, apparently, in what is expected that the ban will apply across the board, but there may be exceptions given to religious minorities. Now, the U.S. law actually defines refugees not just based on religious persecution, which is, of course, very important, but also based on race, nationality, political opinion, and social group. And if the president were to suddenly change the law that way, that could be make him run afoul of the law.
Just explain to us, because there are various visas and ways that you can enter the United States. So as a tourist, as a migrant, as a refugee, how will he be able to differentiate, especially from the 7 countries that he's likely to name where he's going to put this ban in place?
So an important thing just to distinguish here is between refugees and other immigrants coming to the United States. Refugees go through an extremely detailed and rigorous vetting process that requires interviews, collection of biometric biodata to make sure that each refugee, before they come to the United States, goes through security and criminal, national intelligence background checks and interviews with UN and US government officials. That takes typically many months and often several years before anybody comes to the United States. And if there's any doubt, they would never be able to arrive here. For other migrants, other immigrants come to the United States, there's a variety of ways that they could come here as visitors, as people coming for business purposes or family purposes. And if there was a ban placed on people coming from those 7 countries that you mentioned, it will shut down entry for those nationals coming from those countries across the board, and without regard for any kind of screening about the individual's likelihood of presenting any kind of security threat to the United States. This could include scientists. It could include business people, family members. And in fact, a year ago, a BBC reporter was not able to enter because of her Iranian nationality. She was stopped at the Heathrow airport from coming to New Jersey. And that was something that was placed in as a restriction by Congress. But what that did was limited the expedited ability for people to come to the United States. And this BBC journalist was stopped for no particular reason about her situation. What Trump will do is to completely ban entry of people coming from those 7 countries.
Do you think, Greg, that detractors could launch a legal challenge now?
There certainly could be legal challenges. I think it's premature to be able to specify about that until we see exactly what the particulars are. I think this is more likely to be challenged by the public, the American public, because of all the impacts that it will have. The United States has been a leader worldwide on humanitarian issues. Suddenly we're going to shut our doors, shut our borders to refugees coming here. That is something that the United States has done for decades now. Ever since World War II, we've had one of the most robust humanitarian programs. I think the public will not want the United States to back away from that humanitarian commitment. And with respect to the ban on the mostly Muslim majority countries, those 7 countries, that's going to affect businesses. That's going to affect university and research institutions that have scientists here. And again, there is not likely to be any indication that is required to screen these individuals on an individual basis to make sure they to see if they have any kind of background for criminal national security purposes. This is a ban for all those individuals coming in.
We'll have to wait and see until when we get more details. Greg Chen, thank you so much for joining us here on the program.
Thank you for having me.